afternoon, and welcome to BBC Two.
Hello and welcome to Back to the 80s, the podcast that travels back through time in a rose-tinted DeLorean. Yes, it's that time of the week again where we whisk you off in the nostalgia TARDIS and take you on a journey back to the 80s. See, it was all circular there, it's all cyclical. It's like Back to the Future. It's not really like Back to the Future at all. Joining me this week...
now I get it.
Yeah. No. So joining me, as you've just heard this week, we have our new regular presenter. It'll be new for a couple of weeks, lads. Just get used to it. Change is part of life, I am told, even though I despise change in any form. But this is a good change because we have our new regular co-host. We've got Matty. Hello, Matty.
Hello.
How are you?
It's so warm.
Oh, it's tremendously warm. We're having mini heat wave number 2, I think, aren't we?
And yeah, I know we briefly touched on it in the pre-show chat, but it's just so unbelievably warm today. And I decided to use today to be the day when I go and move heavy boxes of things.
Yes, physical work in heat. It's always a good idea, isn't it?
So bad. Why did I do this?
And we're nerds. We're not built for physical work at all, in any way, shape, or form. I used to
I used to do hauling around heavy boxes full of books for a job. So
that was my job. I used to work years ago, 15 years ago. I used to work for Birthdays, the erstwhile car shop. I don't think it exists anymore. And I was supposedly assistant manager. What I actually was it was a workforce full of women who apparently couldn't be bothered picking up boxes and carrying them upstairs. So I had that. That was my job. So yeah, that was basically lots and lots of cards. Now, greetings cards, you don't think they won't be heavy? Oh, how little you know. They are the heaviest things in the world. Especially when you're having to bring down the whole Christmas footage down. Oh.
I'm assuming they don't send you 6 at a time. I'm assuming you get them in quantity.
Sometimes you would get stupid 3 boxes a day sort of thing, but then at Christmas, obviously that changes. You're getting 20 odd boxes a day of cards, and they're quite heavy. And at that point, they were doing this weird promotion with Disney for some reason. So we had loads of Disney stuff, soft toy, basically sort of mini Disney store. If you think along that line, so you had sort of big soft toys and stuff like that as well. So, and the Tape of Doom, which was half Christmas songs and half Disney songs. So I'm not particularly a Disney fan. I don't mind some of the films, but I for some reason know all the words to Everybody Wants to Be a Cat. And all the words to the Jungle Book song, right. Because
I briefly worked in a shop that also sold some Disney tat, and one of the lines that was out at the time was this line of Winnie. It was Winnie the Pooh. It was small plushies of Winnie the Pooh dressed as different animals.
Yes, I remember that.
One of the animals was a bear.
Yeah. That's when
they obviously don't understand the kind of Ed Gein 7 vibe that gives off. Of a bear essentially wearing the skin of another bear.
Yeah. Well, it's like when Iron Man used to come with cars. It's like, why would Iron Man drive a car? Or Iron Man turns into a jet in the Marvel Transform. Why would Iron Man turn into a jet? He is a jet.
I do remember. Yeah, I've seen things like that. The kind of questions you find yourself as a kid asking yourself in the toy shop, why does the Flash need a motorbike?
Yeah, when essentially the Flash is a motorbike. In fact, he's faster than a motorbike. He's more akin to a light cycle, John. I don't even... The worst line of toys and tat that we sold at birthdays. And if anybody ever sticks up for Yoko Ono and says, oh, she's not so bad, really, I will remind them that in the early 2000s there was a line of soft toys that were based on doodles John Lennon made in the 60s. Just doodles. Little illustrations he made. There was a whole line of toys. There was a whole line of stationery and greetings cards. Now, why? I know some people will buy anything with essentially anything to do with the Beatles on it, which is fine, even though I hate the Beatles. But to plunder Lennon's archives that badly, that is mindless and shameless.
I find myself quite unable to give a shit about that, because I think one of the best things John Lennon did for the world was leave it. When it comes to Yoko Ono, the thing that I tend to remember about Yoko Ono, I think there was this is going back years, but I'm pretty sure that there was an art campaign in Liverpool that was run by Yoko Ono that was essentially banners hanging up in public with photos of her vagina.
Nice.
Or a vagina. I don't know if it was hers. I didn't really press for details. And that kind of... I mean, I'm all for artistic expression. I'm all for, art pushing the boundaries of society and stuff like that. But hanging your bits up in a public place kind of fundamentally goes against the idea of consent.
Exactly.
If in an art gallery, people could be like, yeah, I will quite happily, go and stare at banners of a lady's undercarriage.
Ladies.
Hanging on a lamppost.
Yeah.
No
choice in that, really.
I haven't made that call. I haven't decided to do that. It's it's like when you see people walking around in the street doing bondage, when someone's on a lead. It's I get it. You're into it, but
great. But I'm happy for you.
You're bringing me into this now, which I have not consented to do. So
exactly.
Learn learn the mores of your own damn subculture, basically. So that tends to be my abiding sort of memory of anything to do with Yoko Ono. It might not have even been her. I might be unfairly slandering her, but it sounds like the kind of thing that she'd do. Yeah,
it does. Yeah, to get a reaction. It's like when she just did that whole 8 minutes of primal screaming when Donald Trump got... I mean, everyone was doing it, but none of us asked for her to do it. Anyway, so that's been our week. No. Matty, what have you been up to this week? Because I know you've got something interesting. I know you've been doing interesting stuff.
Well, as I mentioned, today was the day that I decided to go and do some heavy lifting and manual labour in the blistering heat. I popped around to my old house to pick up from my old housemate and my friend some of my stuff that was still there. So as a consequence of that, and sort of within the purview of this show, I've now been reunited with my copy of Hero Quest.
Woohoo!
So I'm quite pleased about that. The copy of Hero Quest that I bought for £2 from a charity shop.
Oh, I hate you so much.
While laughing maniacally and probably deeply unsettling the old dear who was like a man in the till. Because I saw that as a Hero Quest, £2. There's gonna be the elf, the gargoyle, and maybe a bookcase. And I opened it up, and it was it was all there. Because obviously, this was 20 years ago. But even then, I had memorised the contents of a Hero Quest box. I knew exactly what was supposed to be in there, and it was all there. And I had one of those moments where it was there's going to be some kind of hidden camera thing going on, or as I'll be carrying it to the till, an air conditioning unit will fall out the ceiling and kill me. I'm not used to the universe providing me with bounty such as this.
But it did.
But it did, and now I've got it. I've also got my copy of Crossbows and Catapults that I bought for a car boot sale.
Oh, nice.
It needs new elastic bands on the trebuchets and that. But
it's not as they're difficult to get a hold of, really, is it? So that's good.
Not especially.
I'm totally going to have to get a copy of Hero Quest, and we'll have to play a game of it over the show, to make a show of it.
We could have a go, but a copy of Hero Quest will run you about £500.
Oh, I used to have one years ago that cost me about 17. I will find it from somewhere. I know people who will hopefully help me out with that.
At the risk of sounding heretical, I actually preferred the Dark World board games There was one called Village of Fear, which is like it's a little village and there's like different buildings and that, and it's like similar to Hero Quest, but instead of being in a dungeon, you're in a village.
There's the American the TSR version, which was Dragon Strike, the one that Spoonie did a commentary of the video years and years ago. I would like to get a copy of that because it's actually co-written by a friend of the podcast, Flint Dilly, because he was doing a lot of game work stuff. He still does. I think he's something to do with Pokemon Go now. I think he works for the company that makes... Niantic. He works for them, and I think he had something to do with Pokemon Go now. So that's really cool. But yeah, he started out doing works for Gary Gygax and things like that. So Dragon Strike's apparently very good. And the video's very funny. He's got Malibu off American Gladiators in it. As the warrior, obviously. If you've never checked out Spoonie's riff on it, check out Spoonie's riff. It's really funny. But I love that early 90s fantasy Hero Quest stuff. It's great. It's really great. I like the old Space Crusade as well. That was a great Space Hulk and Space Crusade, because you got.
I'd love to get a copy of Space Hulk, because I remember playing it. Sort of, I can't remember where it was. It was like we were like on holiday, like somewhere. I think it was maybe like something to do with like school or Boys Brigade or something.
Yeah.
Something to do with that. And wherever we were staying had a copy of Space Hulk, and me and some of my friends played it, and then had nightmares about fucking Gene Stealers coming out the floor.
Fuck yeah! You ever play the Amiga version?
No.
Jesus. That's fucking scary. That is scary. You will always know somebody who's played it on Amiga and say, "Oh, that was really scary. Was that game? It caused me stress like you wouldn't believe." And if you ever get a chance to watch it on YouTube, and I really do recommend that you do, stressful game, man. Really stressful game, because it's like you can't see shit. And you can't turn around fast enough, and you can't run away fast enough from these things, and they will just appear out of nowhere. And if you ever wanted, they can bring out all the Alien games out they want to. You are never going to get as stressed out as you would had you played Space Hulk on the Amiga. Seriously.
Actually, I haven't had a chance to play it yet, but in the last Steam sale, I did, because it was 80% off. I did pick up the video game version of Space Hulk.
Yeah.
Which
great.
I've heard is a little bit janky, but if it, it's the only way I can. It's like I bought the Blood Bowl video games, which isn't really a substitute for playing Blood Bowl in person, but like it's like the nicotine patch of Blood Bowl. I'll take it.
The
Same
needs
thing
must
for
version.
Space Hulk.
Yeah, the needs must version of it, isn't it?
I will say there is a game. I think it's available on. I know it's available on PC. I think it might be available on like iOS and Android and stuff. It's called Templar Battle Force.
Oh yes.
It is basically Space Hulk. It's, it's Space Hulk with the numbers 5. It's like Space Hulk that's been made different enough that they wouldn't get sued.
Exactly.
And it's like a testament to the work that must have taken when dealing with as famously a litigious company as Games Workshop.
Yeah, just a little bit. It's not like they ever go out and sue everybody for everything. You can't use the word space and marine together. That's ours. No, it isn't.
Those pauldrons are slightly too large.
Yeah, exactly. I think
we have big shoulders.
Exactly. Any sort of shoulder pads, Dynasty and Dallas, fuck it, we're suing you retroactively because you copied our... They did try and sue somebody retroactively for something, and I'm sure it was the use of the word Space Marine in some...
Someone published a book Someone published a book with the word Space Marine in the title, and they said that was infringing on their trademark of the term Space Marine. But I think... Like, the term Space Marine goes back to, like, the 20s or something.
It goes back to, I think the first proper use of it as a thing was Starship Troopers, I think. I'm sure I read somewhere that it was...
No, it predates even that.
Blimey, okay.
I mean, you think about it, it's not a terribly original concept. You're taking the concept of Marines and putting them in space.
And space, so you're just badasses in space.
What else are you going to call that?
Exactly. Marines in space, so there you go. What else have you been up to this week?
Well, actually, having said what I just said, I did actually play a game of Blood Bowl last night. My friend popped round and we played some Blood Bowl, and I lost again. But I put some rats in the hospital, so...
There you go. That's the important thing.
What more could you ask for?
Exactly. That's what you need to do, and that's the best thing. Excellent stuff. I haven't played Blood Bowl in years. Like, since the 80s.
I love it. I mean, I didn't get a chance to play it very much because I didn't have my own copy, but I bought a copy of the new edition. I think it's like 5th or 6th edition or something's just come out.
Yeah.
So I pre-ordered it and bought it. And like when I went to the Games Workshop store to pick it up, the guy was like trying to upsell me on like the various other things they do for it, and I was just like, mate, I just want the board.
Really? Games Workshop trying to upsell?
It's like, I'm just gonna, like, I've got the living rulebook practically in my head, and if not, then, like, written down. It's with my dwarf team. It's like, I just need the board and the dice and that.
You want to watch it saying things like that, probably suit your brain.
You're imagining our intellectual property.
Exactly, it's in your head, you're copying it effectively. You can't have that.
There must be some kind of like dystopian fiction there where it's like you have to like rent a book or something like that. You have to like rent like words on paper, and then you have to like keep paying, otherwise you forget it or something. That'll be like a Philip K. Dick story or something.
Oh yeah, Orwell. It's a little bit like Johnny Mnemonic, kind of ish. But there'll be a dystopian fiction where there's information costs you money to retain it. Must be. If not, we should write it. There you go. And then get sued by the person who actually wrote it. There you go. Anything else?
Get sued by Games Workshop because they've trademarked the concept of remembering.
Oh, don't, because they will. They'll listen to this and they'll say, that's it! But there you go. Anything else?
Not really. I haven't done very much this week.
It's been too warm.
Yeah, that's the thing. I've just been working and writing and like doing the stuff that I usually do. Just like messing around on the internet and eating lots of soup. So that's my life. It's business as usual.
There we go. Cool. Well,
so what have you been up to?
Me, not much. I've been working. I had a nice day off today, which is good because it's been hot as balls. And it's been the case. I just cannot be bothered with that. But we've been sort of fine-tuning what we're doing on our hollybobs. We're not doing much this year. We just because we were going to do something, then my girlfriend ended up getting jury duty. So and that's during the time that we'll both be on holiday because she's a lecturer. So she gets a summer off anyway. But it's all right. She can't wait. She's always wanted to do jury duty, so she's going to be quite happy. So that's good because it means I get to clean my Transformer shelves and my nerdy shelves in my little study. So I get to do that, which is good. We're such nerds. And then we're going to London the last week of July. And we're going to go see Hamlet with Andrew Scott, the guy who plays Moriarty in Sherlock. He's doing Hamlet. Oh, cool. So we're going to see that for 4 hours. That's going to be... I've never been to a 4-hour show.
So that's probably the full text, isn't it?
Yes, it's apparently that's the thing. They're doing the whole thing.
That'll be like, you'll have like Fortinbras and stuff.
Yes.
The people that they usually cut out.
Yeah, which is cool. I think that's okay. I don't mind that. It's going to be fun. And for 2 nights we're going to stay at the Hilton Olympia, and 2 nights we're going to stay at this really cool hotel. It's a Parks Plaza on Baker Street. So we're actually going to be staying on Baker Street itself. Cool. Originally we were going to get a nice executive room, and then we found out that it's actually cheaper. You wouldn't think so, but it is cheaper to get a loft. So it's like a mezzanine floor. So you got like a living room and then a mezzanine floor where the bed is. And that's actually cheaper than getting a proper room. Which is what
if they've taken like the interpretation of loft like too literally, and you get in your room and it's just full of like boxes of Christmas decorations and stuff.
I'll be alright with that. There might be rare toys. You never know. Go one of those things where you find a missing Beatles song or something, and then that's it. I'm made for life, so that's fine.
It's like, ooh, big track.
Oh, dude, if I could get a big track, I'd be so happy with that. Although I imagine now I'm an adult, it'll be a little track. It won't be so big. Because I remember when I was a kid, that thing was immense. That was huge, and I'll bet it's tiny.
It's kind of like the reverse of the Mars rover, because people tend to picture the Mars rover. They think of it being like, WALL-E, like it's about probably comes up to your hip when it's like actually like it's about the size of a minibus.
Yeah, it's fucking massive. Is the Mars?
We sent a giant big track to Mars.
Oh, I would.
Right, how come? Right, we can put a big track on Mars, but we can't make a chicken cave that doesn't burst in the oven.
I know, not right. Fucking disgusting. Anyway, seeing as we were going to London, I was looking on the old interwebs, and I found out that London Film and Comic Con is on that weekend. So it's on the 28th to the 30th. So we said, well, why don't we just go on the 29th and just spend a day? Because I'm not one of these people who thinks that you need more than one day to go around a convention, because you don't. If it's a massive convention, especially, you can see everything in a day. It's all you need to do. So we thought, yeah, we'll go to that. And then she found out that Benadryl Bodybag's going to be there, promoting Doctor Strange and stuff, and I found out Kevin Smith's going to be there, among other people. There's a lot of guests there this year. So she's getting a picture with Haversack Bodybag and I'm going to get a picture with Kevin Smith because I like Kevin Smith. I mean, I do like is it Benadryl? Have a banana. It's really difficult coming up with names of that dude.
You could just say his name.
That's not fun.
It's like at this stage, it's kind of like
it's no fun. I like making up names for him. Nothing's going to be as ridiculous as his own name, is it?
Benedict Timothy. What is it? Benedict Timothy Tarleton Cumberbatch.
Wanda Bentham's son, as I know him, because it's like first time I saw him on Sherlock, and that was pretty much the first time I'd seen him. I'm thinking, he looks like somebody. He looks like somebody I know. Who is that? And then sort of look on the oldie Twitter. It's like, all right, so yeah, it's Wanda Bentham off UFO and Doctor Who fame, among other things. And Cassandra's mum on Only Fools and Horses. She was. Yeah, she was. Her dad was Dennis Lill. Now, Dennis Lill and Wanda Bentham are in Image of the Fendal, the Doctor Who story from the 70s. Which, interestingly enough, she'd just had Benedict Cumberbatch. That was her first acting job after having Benedict Cumberbatch. It's all connected. Illuminati confirmed. But anyway, yes, she's getting a picture with Benedict Cumberbatch, and I'm getting a picture with Kevin Smith, so that should be cool. And there's quite a few Doctor Who. Sadly, Colin Baker's cancelled, which is a real shame. One day I will meet Colin Baker, because everyone else has. But McCoy is there, so hopefully I'll get McCoy's signature on one of my various Doctor Who DVDs. That would be nice. Cool. So yes, I'm going to LFCC this year. So if anybody, I know Harriet, friend of the show, Harriet is going to be there, and Phil, former presenter, he's going to be there. So me and Phil are going to hook up and with his lovely wife Kim, because I ain't seen Phil in about 4 years, because obviously he's very busy in Nora 9, doing what he does, and I just don't get a chance to see him, I'm afraid. But so I'm going to LFCC. He does. Well, you grow up, innit? People grow up and they have lives and stuff.
My friend Alistair, who was playing Blood Bowl with last night, this was the first time I've seen him, I think, in a few months.
Yeah.
We managed to both get a window in our schedules, once every few months, and we meet up and play Blood Bowl.
Oh, that's good.
And so I was this is one of my best friends, and I haven't seen him for quite some time. What's the best way? How should I greet him? What's the best way to greet him? And my brain decided the best way would be to shoot him in the penis with a Nerf gun.
As friends do.
Yeah.
Ain't it? As friends should. That's just what should have.
Just keeping him on his toe. Right. I've probably over the course of our by now 10+ year friendship, I've done stuff like that constantly, and now the man has the reflexes of a kung fu master. Because he was bringing in his little carrying case with his Skaven Blood Bowl team in, and I fired off my Nerf shot, and he just blocked it. It was like Wonder Woman.
Good.
Just instinctively, just move the box over his crotch, and I'm like, good. I see the time has not dulled your reflexes.
Yes, it's like Clouseau and Kato.
Yeah, that's what I've always said. I'm essentially his Kato.
Yeah, and he's learning.
Right, here's the thing that fucks me off about Benedict Cumberbatch, and it's the stupidest thing, but a few years ago, he was on the radio playing a young version of Rumpole of the Bailey from the books and TV series.
Oh, cool.
And radio series by John Mortimer.
Yes.
And I listened to it, and I quite liked it, because he was playing the young... It was based on one of the books. It was... the thing Rumpole was always famous for bringing up was the fact that he conducted the defence for the Penge Bungalow murders alone and without a leader as a junior barrister.
Yeah.
That's his one claim to fame, and he brought it up all the time. So eventually John Mortimer wrote a book about that, and then they dramatised it for the radio, because they've been dramatising it. They've been dramatising some of the newer ones with, I think it was Timothy West was playing Rumpole.
Oh, would make sense.
Which really worked. And then they did the young Rumpole ones, and they had Benedict Cumberbatch. And I was just listening to his voice, and it was like, yeah, that works. And then I saw him. I saw what he looked like, and I was so angry. Because if you basically got if you wrote down all of the physical characteristics of Benedict Cumberbatch, and
Rumpole. Then
in a separate column wrote down their antonyms, the words that mean the opposite of them, you would get Rumpole. It was almost... it was kind of like when they cast, a 6'6" Australian as Wolverine instead of a 5'4" Canadian. which, you know, isn't that much of a problem for me because I don't give a shit about Wolverine. But I feel very strongly about Rumpole and the Bailey, so I was positively scandalised. Like, See, that's taking work away from fat short asses, and I won't stand for it.
No, as a fat short ass myself, then, you know, I completely agree with this. See, I obviously does a lot of radio, but the thing I know most from the radio is Cabin Pressure, which is great. And if you've never heard Cabin...
Is that the one where he's a pilot and it's him and Stephanie Cole?
And Roger Allen in the thick of it, and John Finnemore, who wrote it.
That's the thing. Like, I've heard it's very good.
Oh, it's brilliant. It's really funny.
I've just never worked up the impetus to actually listen to it.
It's all on YouTube, so it's very easy to go listen to. That and the John Finnemore programme, souvenir programme, very funny. But yeah, it's really sort of old-fashioned almost sitcom. But yeah, he's the captain, but he's not the greatest pilot in the world. Whereas Roger Allen plays the first officer, who is the brilliant pilot. But obviously he has to pull rank because I'm the captain. It's completely opposite to what Sherlock is. So he's not confident at all, and he's, you know, it's brilliant, really good. So if you've never listened to Cabin Pressure, go listen to Cabin Pressure. It's very funny. It's 4 seasons of it as well, and yeah, it's just nice. And I like a lot about that sort of thing. I think Helen Baxendale was in it for an episode. John Sessions is in it for an episode. So yeah, it gets some quite famous people. Phil Davis is in it as well, who was also in Sherlock, which is weird. Oh, and Alex McQueen, who I love. Alex McQueen, he's my favourite posh, uptight guy. He played Julian in The Thick of It. It's basically
I've never seen The Thick of It.
You need to see The Thick of It.
I've never seen, like, you know, an Armando Iannucci joint.
Yeah,
I haven't seen any of those.
Oh, it's
but
brilliant.
I know of them just through kind of like internet osmosis.
Thick of It's the best one, closely followed by Veep, which is essentially American Thick of It, but it's really, really good. And Julia Louis-Dreyfus is in it too, who I think is great anyway. But yeah, definitely see Cabin Pressure. Listen to Cabin Pressure. It's Radio 4, you'll like it. And yeah, watch The Thick of It because it's great. Maybe not the first season where Chris Langham's in it, because I always feel let down because Chris Langham. But it was research.
It's a bit of a tainted chalice now, isn't it?
Yeah, second season on was probably better because Rebecca Front hasn't been involved in anything like that, thank fuck. Because I would be distraught. I would be very distraught if Rebecca Front ended up being a nonce. But there you go. Other than that, yeah, like I said, I haven't really done much. I started listening again to some Big Finish Doctor Who stuff. I've been on a bit of a Cyberman kick because of the finale of Doctor Who, which I don't know if you saw or are even interested in. It was good.
No, I've not watched Doctor Who for a few years.
Good.
I understand. Like, again, I pick things up just from it. You know, it's like in my sort of online orbit.
Yeah.
So I know, like, the broad strokes.
Excellent. See what I did there? But yes,
I get it. Because I do know that the original Cybermen have come back.
Yes,
the ones with like the headlight faces and the balaclavas.
The ones that are the freakiest, the ones that are the scariest, quite frankly, because they're the ones who look like medical equipment. And I've been seeing this for 20 odd years. People taking the piss out of them, saying, "Yeah, all right." The idea is that, you know, that it was of its time, and, you know, they didn't have that much money. But if you actually retrofit that and think, well, they're just basically massive medical units. You know, it's just like all these spare parts are like monitors and stuff keeping them alive. It's actually freakier than them just being robotic silver monsters, to me, anyway.
Oh yeah, I mean, there's way more of an uncanny valley thing going on with the Mondas Cybermen.
Definitely.
Mondas, 10th Planet? I don't know.
Yes.
I haven't watched Doctor Who for a few years now, and now I can't remember half of it.
Whereas I'm like the biggest fan. Yeah, you're completely right. So you got the Mondas Cybermen with the original ones. And if you've never listened to it, not just you, anybody listening, listen to the Big Finish audio spare parts. It's 99p on the Big Finish.
That I have listened to.
It's brilliant. It's the Fifth Doctor trying to divert or stop Cyberman being created in the first place, and it's got this real, unlike Genesis of the Daleks, where they're basically space Nazis who deserve everything they get. Cybermen, they're kind of tragic, and that's kind of why I always preferred them to the Daleks anyway, because the Cybermen are really tragic. They're just wanting to survive, and it just consumed them. There's also another good one called The Silver Turk as well, where the Eighth Doctor, who travels at the time with Mary Shelley, and you can basically, again, a Cyberman story, but you can see her getting ideas when she will write Frankenstein, because by this point she hadn't written it yet. So she will write it, and this whole story is giving her ideas on what Cybermen will be, but in really subtle ways. It's not really obvious. See what I did there. So yeah, I've been on a bit of a Cyberman kick at the moment, so which is no bad thing. So, but yeah, honestly, if you've never listened to Spare Parts before and you're listening to this, 99p on Big Finish, and you download it and it's yours. And if you ever lose it, you just go back to the Big Finish site and it's just there, ready for download again. So yeah, do that. Excellent stuff.
I did once seriously offend a Star Trek fan by referring to the Borg as emo Cybermen.
They are.
They're like cybergoth Cybermen.
They are. They're just edgelord Cybermen. Are they? Oh, the nice girls don't like me. That's about it.
They're just Cybermen who listen to Kraftwerk.
Oh, how dare you? There's nothing wrong with Kraftwerk or emo about Kraftwerk. They're Cybermen.
I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being emo. I'm just saying it's a look.
They're Cybermen who listen to Imagine Dragons. Mute Math. There you are. Cybermen who listen to Mute Math. That's what they are. Oh no, I can't stand the Borg. There was a comic, Doctor Who Star Trek crossover, where the Cybermen basically did take over the Borg. And it's just to find it really easy as well. It's like, no, it's fuck you all. We're Cybermen. We're taking over. Star Trek fiction, Star Trek crossover Doctor Who fan fiction never ends well in my head. It's like the Daleks would just take out the Federation in 2 minutes. Because the Federation's all about diplomacy and getting along, and we'd rather talk it out. And the Daleks are like, no, fuck you, you're dead. It's going to kill all of you. We don't care.
Well, no, because like the Federation's got like Section 13 or whatever it's called that does like the wet works, where they're the ones who basically will do all the off-book stuff, where they like essentially do like have like an exterminatus fleet.
Yeah, but they don't use it enough. That'll be a good one. Warhammer 40k Star Trek crossover. Star Trek ends up in a grim dark universe.
The thing is, like, think about Star Trek is, right? Yeah, phasers and that's probably not going to do much against Daleks.
Probably
because I imagine that they'll like the case is like, right, all you need is say like Chief O'Brien, to just show up with like a teleport transmitter or whatever, just teleport every single Dalek mutant 3 feet to the left of its case. Invasion over.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know why
all you need then is a mop.
See, I don't know why they never did that in the show. Like, have the ethics of using a teleport or a transporter weapon, so you could just transport everyone off a ship and just leave them in space.
Usually that's what like shields and that are for.
Well,
if you want to go into it, there is like some properly like horrific things. Like they could teleport your skeleton outside your body.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you want horror, you look at Star Trek: The Motion Picture within the first 15, 16 minutes of it with the transporter accident.
There's some problem with the transporter, and Kirk basically shoves the operative out the way. It's like, Lee, I'll do it. Oh wait, no. Now the horror. It's like, what's the line they actually say? Like, what we got back didn't live long.
Yeah, what we got back didn't live long. Yeah.
Jesus Christ, Kirk.
It's not that. That's not the worst bit. It's the bit where it screams. That's like, fuck me, this is supposed to be... what? That's the only good bit in that film. That whole film is just pointless.
Talking about Star Trek and 40k, though, I recently started reading the Horus Heresy books. Not like all of them, just like the ones that interest me. And I started off by reading Fulgrim.
Of course you did.
And of course I did.
Perth.
And there's a bit in... Shut up. And and it was pretty hot there. And there's a bit in that where they are basically going up against a species, like a collective of species that I think was intentionally created to evoke the idea of the Federation from Star Trek, and was done so in a way to emphasize the fact that the Imperium of Man are not heroic. They're not even anti-heroes. They are just straight up villain protagonists.
Yes, they're racist. They're racist, horrific theocrats is what they are.
Not so much theocrats in the Horus Heresy, because but
they will become
religion's not allowed. But when the Emperor becomes God Emperor...
But they are theocrats because they're atheist theocrats. They become that much atheist But it's like Dawkins. It's now their religion to be an atheist. So yeah, they are dogmatic and they are theocrats, but it's just that the absence of a god makes them theocrats. But yeah, they've got them, and then you've got the Lan. Is it the Len or the Lan?
The Liar.
Liar, that's it.
Quite sure. The blade is the liar. It's like a weird snake species.
And that's the ones that turns them into Slaneshi mental cases.
They're all hopped up on Slanesh.
Yep. That's great. There's two bits in that I love. There's the orgy bit, which is fun. It's just like, oh yes, let's just turn all into Slaneshi demons and just.
I don't know that fun was quite the vibe that I got from it.
Well, they found it fun.
Well, yeah, sure, but me reading it, I was kind of like, wow, this is like horrific. This is this is only on a par with like the Eclipse in Berserk, like that kind of thing, where it's like.
Well, it wasn't happening to me, so it was fun. And then the whole tragic, I forget the artist's name, the one who ends up killing loads of people and she gets corrupted by Slanesh.
Serena D'Angelis.
That's the one, and her friend or lover or whatever he is. The way that she impales herself on Fulgrim's sword when she finds his body. Spoilers, by the way, for the 10-year-old book.
I think you meant to do the spoilers anyway.
If you haven't read it by now, you ain't going to read it. Basically, is the way I look at it. It's like 10 years old, something like that. Book.
I only read it a couple of months ago.
Yeah, but I knew you had read it. This is the thing, because your Twitter handle tells me you've read it. Plus, you're a massive pervert, so it's all right. There you go. Yes. Well, yeah, just a normal common garden pervert. There you go.
I'm only 5'7".
Oh, there you go then. Same height as me. Brilliant stuff. So basically what we're saying is listen to Cabin Pressure, listen to Spare Parts, and probably read Fulgrim. It's really good, actually. It's one of the best ones, I think, is Fulgrim. I really enjoyed that book.
You don't even have to bother with reading any of the others. Just read Fulgrim.
Yeah, well, you can, even if you don't like reading, there are audio versions available. And they're quite good, actually, the audio versions. Sadly, they don't do them as audio dramas. I'd love to hear them as audio dramas, but the guys reading them are pretty bloody good. But anyway, excellent stuff. Well, we shall move to a break before we come back, because this week's Spotlight is something very, very cool that we haven't done yet, and we have talked about it before on the podcast, but we've never done a Spotlight, but Matty will do that. The ads this week are from STV from the 9th of July 1982, so I imagine it's very weird for Matty to have seen them, because they weren't alive. They weren't even a twinkle in their father's eye at that point. But I was 6 years old and kind of remember 1982, so I feel very old. First ad is for Breakaways, the Rowntree biscuit. I used to live very near Rowntrees. My whole family at one point just about worked for Rowntrees. So my gran used to bring back big bloody bags of factory seconds of Breakaways. So I was raised on the bloody things. They were awesome.
That's interesting because where I live and where I grew up, we've got a Cadbury's, or we had a Cadbury's. So
yeah,
it's closed now. They're doing the whole Willy Wonka, close it down.
Yeah, turn it into flats.
Don't even see the Oompa Loompas anymore.
Shame. But Rowntree still goes on. It's Nestle now, but certain products it still have Rowntrees. Like fruit pastels is a big one. Anything fruit based is generally Rowntrees for some reason. I don't know why.
I do know when they got bought out by Nestle, they absolutely refused to give Nestle the chocolate recipe.
No, they didn't want to do it.
That's why, like, Kit Kats taste different.
Yeah, because the old recipe changed. It was more to do with the fact that they didn't really refuse to give it to them. It's just that Nestle said, too expensive, we'll make it to our recipe. It's basically what happened. And the York factory now, pretty much a depot, more than anything else, which is a shame. But there you go. From something going in your mouth to something coming out of your ass, the next advert is for Diocalm, which is quite a racist. It's a weird advert because it's kind of out of its time, because it's clearly a 70s advert, and it's clearly basically saying, oh, when we go on holiday we usually get the shits because of the foreign muck, so we take Diocalm. Victor Louis Smith always used to put it in his programmes, so like TV Offal and things like that, he used to put that. There's two adverts he used to use, the Diocalm one and one for a slimming thing, like a fat binder thing from the 70s called AIDS. So there's a girl saying, well, if I wanted to slim, I'd just get AIDS.
Oh, God.
Really? Okay, then. They weren't to know. The next one's amazing. It's for Tennant's Lager. And Yeah, this is the period when Tennant's Lager were putting nudie ladies, pictures of nudie ladies on the cans.
Never a good look for breweries. I mean, I know one of my mates, he does like design work for breweries and stuff. Like he designs like pump clips, and he makes them. You know, he does like Transformers themed ones. The nerd, and like we've both agreed, like when we've met up for a pint, it's like if you have to put like a naked or even semi-naked woman on your pump clip, you've kind of lost. It's like you obviously don't have that much faith in your actual product.
Well, you can say that about anything with them. They used to do it with nuts as well. Do you remember? Or was this before your time?
Oh yeah, there's I've been in pubs since I was a kid, so I know about like you get like a board of pork scratchings and stuff.
Yeah, so you have the board behind the backs of KP nuts, and every time we took one off, it revealed a picture of a nudie lady. Weird, just weird. I mean, out of place. It's like going into a mechanic's locker room, basically. Now, my dad was a mechanic, so when I was little, my mother used to work across the road from where he worked, at the garage he worked at, and so we had to wait in the locker area. So you got like a kid of about 7 and then a kid of about 4 waiting in a locker area with like sort of pictures of the Sunday Sport up everywhere. And this is back when the Sunday Sport was just pornography, basically. Very, very strange. Pirelli calendars and things like that. This were women with their tits out.
That kind of thing's always been weird to me, because it's like, I was always, if I was a straight man, I would probably feel fatally insulted that, you know, like advertising executives clearly think that the only way to pique my interest is to make me mildly horny.
To be fair, it is though. Pretty much. Sex sells, isn't it?
Oh.
I mean, what about a person in your position now? What would grab your eye in that method? Just out of interest.
I don't know, like vampires.
Pretty boys.
Pretty boy vampires.
Pretty boy vampires, just sort of joining the anime style.
Not exclusively.
No? It helps.
I like a smorgasbord of my pretty boy vampires.
There you go. Well, there you go, advertising execs. If you're listening and you're after Matty's demographic, pretty boy vampires.
I don't know. I'm
kissing
pretty
each
sure
other.
I'm like a demographic of 1, basically.
You never know. That might come important one day. You don't know. You know.
I could become a cult leader. We don't know.
Exactly. You could be the David Koresh of podcasting. You never know.
Oh Lord.
Yeah. Or it would be Davina Koresh in your case, but never mind.
That wasn't a name I was expecting to be dropped in this podcast, if I'm honest.
Oh, David Koresh.
Yeah. A little bit out of left field, that one.
Let's see if I can think of any more. What was the bald-headed motherfucker out of Heaven's Gate? Him. You could be him, if you wanted to be.
Is it the Hood?
Yes. No, the Claw.
No, that's Thunderbirds.
Yes. You Patrick Stewart. No?
I'm pretty sure Patrick Stewart isn't a cult leader.
You don't know. You don't know. He could be.
I think he is, but he jointly shares it with Ian McKellen, and they're also the only ones in the cult. And it basically just involves wandering around pride parades and bowler hats. I'm in.
It sounds fun. Next up, we've got an advert for Johnson & Johnson products. So not just exclusively baby powder or baby oil. And it's a weird advert for 82, is that. They didn't tend to do sort of product line adverts. They do now, it's a common thing. But back in 82, that was kind of a weird thing, just to advertise everything in one go. But yes, Johnson & Johnson, so baby oil, keeping your skin fresh. I can't use baby oil or baby shampoo or anything like that, because my skin's naturally extremely fucking oily. So basically, I would just get out the shower and just slip down the stairs if I did that. So it's just not going to happen. Oh yes, and then they've got an album from Ronco called Overload, and it's trying to be edgelordy. So it's Eurythmics are on it and other shit like that, The Cult. So any early 80s pseudo-goth Bauhaus sort of stuff. Anything you'd see in the Tony Scott vampire movie from the early 80s. So yeah, that. Up next is a product I used to use when I was a teenager and doesn't work, which is why it's probably not around anymore. Biactol, which is basically spot facial cream wash stuff. Never worked. I never used to get terrible acne. I was really lucky. I had a mate who didn't use Biactol. Did nothing. Did absolutely nothing.
Well, that's the thing. It's like, unless you're talking about cases of like clinical acne, for the most part, you just need soap and a relatively decent diet.
Water. A lot of people, they say, apparently decent diet makes no difference. It was on Embarrassing Bodies once. It was Dr. Pixie. I trust Dr. Pixie because she's small and Irish. But she said...
like, a decent diet does involve, like, adequate hydration.
Oh, yeah, she said it helps, but she said mainly it's just hydration. If you keep hydrated, you won't get spots. And just wash your face with water and like you said, just normal soap. Don't try and be clever. Just normal soap. And apparently that also helps with wrinkles as well. A lot of women who don't have wrinkles, like my old gran, she never had wrinkles, and she always used to say, just use soap and water. Mind you, she smoked 80 fags a day. I'm not sure how much medical advice I take from her, but we're talking about a woman who was told by a doctor, don't give up smoking, it'll kill you.
Wow.
Yep. Well,
you're more cigarette than woman now.
Yep, pretty much. She's sitting there saying, don't smoke, Glenn, it's a mugs game.
It's only the tar deposits keeping you upright.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah, bless her soul. Bless her soul. Advert then from the Windmill Bakery. I remember Windmill bread. It was shit. It was worse than Sunblessed, and Sunblessed was the worst. It was the drizzling shits.
What was the bread that had shit in it? Like Mighty White or something?
Oh, Mighty White, yeah.
It had, like, things in it.
Racist bread. Basically that. Well, it is. Mighty White is
they
a
they would
horrible
probably
expression.
Rebrand nowadays, I think.
Well, it was Australian originally, and I don't think, obviously, down there it had the
country that gave us Golden Gay time.
Australia's weird with what they say about races, because like a term like, I'm going to say it, Paki in Australia isn't a racial slur. It's just what they shorten things. So it's just a shortened form.
I would have to hear from some. That's the thing. I would have to hear from some Australians of Pakistani descent, or like Asian Australians.
Oh, I can give you. I can give you an example.
To hear what they'd have to say on the matter.
I can give you an example. My girlfriend used to live in Australia, so she knows these things. There was a cricket test between Australia and Pakistani. They got into trouble with other people from other countries who were there because they ran a massive television campaign there saying the Pakis are coming. And no Australian found anything wrong with this because it, like I say, not a racial slur in Australia. Another great example of that is Oriental. The word Oriental in Britain and Western Europe, not a racial slur at all. In America, massive racial slur.
I think it depends who you ask.
Oh no, in America, across the board, massive racial slurs because they had a lot more experience of racializing and slurring Orientals and Eastern peoples because of the railroads.
Are you suggesting that we didn't? Because we kind of invented racism in this country.
Oh no, we totally did.
I mean, we invented the concentration camp.
We didn't really have the yellow peril thing that the Americans had. The Americans had the yellow peril because obviously any race that they enslaved, they're automatically frightened of. So that's why that was all to do with like communism and that, wasn't it? No, yellow peril was
and Japan and stuff.
No, it predates it. Yellow peril is sort of Fu Manchu, so we're talking late 1800s. And you do see it in some British fiction.
I thought Fu Manchu was from the 20s.
Before that, I think. I'm pretty sure.
Was it set in the 1800s but written in the 20s?
I think a bit of both. I think it was sort of turn of the century. And then you got things like Charlie Chan as well, which is horrifically racist. And then that film that they don't show, that Disney film called... Is it Disney? I'm sure it's Disney. One of Our Dinosaurs Is Missing.
Oh, yeah. It's like Peter Ustinov.
Yes. and others. And Talons of Weng Chiang.
Yeah.
The Doctor Who, which is... Oh, bless him. I kind of understand.
Maybe not. Maybe not actually bless them in this one.
Well,
because you're not telling me you found one British Chinese actor. You're telling me Burke Kwok was busy. I don't buy it, Doctor Who. I do not buy it.
Do you know what? In the 70s, yes, he would have been. He'd been a big movie star, frankly, so they couldn't have afforded him. I honestly think there are Chinese people in it.
Making Tenko.
No. Oh yeah, hang on. It was Burke Kwok, wasn't it? Yeah, which is kind of racist because he's not Japanese. But I don't think they had the actors back then who could have. David Yip was just on the cusp of becoming famous. So in the late 70s, no, I don't think they did. It's like the It Ain't Half Hot one thing with Michael Bates as the Waller. I think he is a Waller.
Yeah, I think sort of historically the thing with that is there would have been actors of the appropriate race to play them. It's just they never got hired.
No, they never got hired.
Or if they did, they'd just be like as background characters.
Yeah, they never got hired.
Like you can't pull off the nuance for this role. We're just going to cover this man in brown makeup.
It would have been just too risky. I'm not a big... See, I know a lot of people love doing this, and I'm not a big fan of looking at things from the past with our eyes and saying, oh, they were all hateful, horrific racists. Some of them were. Of course they were. I don't think all of them were. I don't think they made decisions like that just to piss off darkies. As you know, oh, let's just annoy them.
I don't know. I mean, the thing to be sort of conscious of is that racism isn't always like an active decision.
Oh no,
it's a systemic thing. So
exactly.
you can still be racist without wanting to be racist.
Oh, exactly.
Everyone's everyone is capable of being sort of unthinkingly bigoted in certain ways.
But I just don't think it's very helpful to look at things like the minstrel show and say that everyone who watched it was a horrible person who deserved to die. It's just, it was something that was of the time, and let's not do it again, eh? I think that's a lesson, because that Channel 4 programme, it was alright in the 60s and 70s and that, and I think it's just, I don't think programmes like that are helpful, frankly. Yes, everybody knows by this point Love Thy Neighbour was quite racist. Everybody knows. We don't need another show with some up-and-coming comedian to tell me that. But they were just acting the part. They were just doing a job. It's not like they were in the Triumph of the Will now, is it? It's not. It's Leni Riefenstahl. It isn't. But anyway, yeah. So you do get sort of some racist things watching back. But at least it ain't Bottle Boys, because by then they knew fucking better. And like Davidson knows better and doesn't change his act. There's a big, massive difference. Anyway, this is very 80s. An advert from the Woolwich about shares, because of course we couldn't get enough of those in the 80s. Shares, and that all went very, very well. Everybody made loads of money, and nobody was poor ever again.
A flawless plan with no drawbacks.
Exactly. And then you get a gem of an advert. It was for Brown Bear's Furniture, and it's Brian Blessed, but it's Brian Blessed being quiet. So it's amazing. It's a brilliant advert because he's not doing Brian Blessed. Because obviously, as everybody knows, there are two Brian Blesses. There's Brian Blessed the actor, and then there's Brian Blessed the character that he plays. And he's not like that in real life. He can't be. Nobody could be like that all the time.
I think he is a bit. I'm pretty sure...
Oh, he's an old ham.
I'm pretty sure the reason that they're training him to go into space is because they want to find out if he is the only thing in the universe that's audible in a vacuum.
Yes. Well, he's been up Everest like 4 times without oxygen, hasn't he? So he doesn't need it. His lung capacity is such that he doesn't need it. Got a friend, actually, who's a comedian, who did that Kilimanjaro. That's something like 6'8", so they're a massive person anyway. But they went up Kilimanjaro and for charity and didn't need oxygen. And so everyone else is at the top going, can't breathe, and he's going, what a beautiful day. And it's like, okay then, nice one, brilliant.
I still say it's a shame that the Marvel Cinematic Universe didn't kick off 40 years earlier, because Brian Blessed would have been an amazing Black Bolt.
Yes,
because he essentially is.
Well, yes, effectively.
He can destroy continents with his voice.
Oh, absolutely. Of course he can. He's the modern day version of SRAM from Turner.
He's like on paper. You look at Brian Blessed. He's like the final boss in an anime.
He really is. He's what's his face off Mortal Kombat? The drunk one. I can't remember his name. All the Mortal Kombat fans are shouting at the screen. But he's like him, basically. He's like British Godzilla, is what he is. Last advert in that cycle is for Belmont Datsun. So it's a car dealership that deals exclusively in Datsuns. In Yorkshire, where I grew up, it was actually DC Cook who did Nissan and Datsun. So look for the DC Cook sign. If you're in Yorkshire, you'll recognise that. If you're not in Yorkshire, you won't know what the fuck that is. I love that. I love regional adverts. They're some of my favourite things in the world, regional adverts. You can tell a lot about a region from its adverts. And that's the problem with generic ITV. That shit don't happen no more. Because ITV is just one big channel now and not little networks. So you don't get to see... Yeah, I think it is. I think it's a shame you don't get to see little weird idents anymore.
What does the I even stand for?
It's not independent anymore, is it? But yeah, there's a great guy called Applemask who did a whole series, and then he reduxed it as well, of the stories of these independent television companies. So, like one week it'd be Yorkshire, next it'd be STV, the next bit after that would be Granada. It's brilliant. If you get to see it, it's Bob the Fish Productions on Vimeo, and it's great. It's a great little series. He did it about things like GMTV as well, and he does a program called The Hard Sell, all about adverts. But yeah, I didn't know TSW had such an interesting ident, and so out of in left field. It's unbelievable. Or the fact that Wales had like 4 different television companies in about 4 years. It's weird that this shit happened, because I only knew Yorkshire. And the weird thing that I found out by watching that is in-vision continuity. It's not something we ever had. Yorkshire never had it. You had the TV symbol, the Yorkshire television symbol spinning round and a disembodied voice. That was it. Everybody else seems to have had people telling them what programme was coming next. Weird. But there you go. Brilliant. Right, well, we shall be with you after the ads to talk about something very, very cool. Enjoy.
Show will be right back after these messages. Why don't you take away? Take away.
Holidays abroad? Never again. Third time we've been. Third time we've had tummy trouble.
Diacalm for you. Diacalm beats holiday tummy troubles fast.
You can get tenants anywhere, man. The blue and yellow can, man. From off-license shops and the high street store. From pubs and clubs, it's chosen more. Why not try tenants anywhere?
You won't remember when Johnson & Johnson first helped keep your skin soft and smooth. Now you've grown up, Johnson & Johnson is still keeping baby soft skin baby soft. And always will.
Overload with Blondie, PhD, Tight Fit, and many more. Overload from Ronco. 22 electrifying hits.
These young people get spots, but controlled tests have shown that washing every day with Biactol means they get fewer spots.
This skin pore model shows why. 1, Biactol unblocks the pores. 2, Biactol kills bacteria, leaving skin clinically clean, which means fewer spots. Biactol. Fewer spots just by daily washing.
For everyone who enjoys working up a healthy appetite, this is the wholemeal loaf from the Windmill Bakery. It's baked from 100% wholemeal flour and has a delicious natural taste. The wholemeal loaf from the Windmill Bakery. It's as natural as a healthy appetite.
An important investment opportunity closes on July the 31st. Would you like to earn an extra 2% on our current ordinary share rate and have that premium guaranteed for 3 years? Well, you can, with the Woolwich. If you invest before July the 31st, our premium interest shares pay a guaranteed 2% extra. That's 10.75% net. Interested? Can I help you?
If you go down to the Brown Bear store, you're in for a big surprise. There's plenty in stock, no need to wait. Open 7 days, weekdays till 8. Brown Bear's the store that's really packed full of surprises. You're in for a big surprise.
The full new Datsun range is in stock for same-day delivery of 1st of August Y registration at Belmont Datsun, Sighthill, Roseburn, Meadowbank, Edinburgh and Deans Livingston. Try us now.
And now, back to Gem.
And we are back. I hope you enjoyed the ads there. I know we did. Matty, it's your turn to spotlight this week, so what have you got for us?
Well, this is one of the first things that I ever remember seeing on TV. It's this and the 60s Batman reruns.
Oh.
It's an animated series called The Mysterious Cities of Gold.
Remember it well.
It was kind of a weird one, because it was a French-Japanese co-production.
Yeah.
And there's more of them than you'd think.
Oh,
like,
Ulysses.
I'm pretty sure like D'Artagnan, or that might have been like Spain and Japan, I'm not sure.
Yeah, it was Spanish.
Yeah.
Interesting, another guy who did D'Artagnan's voice was Cam Clark, who did the voice of Leonardo in Turtles.
Yeah, and he was in Willy Fogg.
Yes, and he was also does loads of anime.
He did the voice for in the English dub for the anime Genesis Climber Moss Speeder, which is one of my favourite Robo animes, was sort of retrofitted into the Robotech series in America.
All right.
And there's a character in that called the character's called Yellow Belmont in the original show. In Robotech, they're called Lance Belmont, and by modern standards, this character would be genderqueer, because when they first meet the character, she's like a woman who's like, she's like singing in a club, and then they're going off to get their like mechs back from the spaceship crash that they've been in, and they're like, no, you can't come with us because you're a girl, and she's like, give me a minute, and she basically just walks around the back of a motorbike, and when she comes back, she's a bloke. And she's like, hey, what's up?
That's kind of like fucking Zoltar from Battle of the Planets.
Yeah, and Cam Clark did the voice for this character in the English dub, which when it was done, I think it was called like Robotech: The Next Generation.
Right. I remember that. Excellent. Oh, there you go. I'm guessing in that they either avoided it or they said it was his sister or brother.
No, actually, I think they pretty much just made it so that he was in drag.
Right.
Like, there wasn't really a way that they could have done it.
No.
The way that it's done, there's no point. Like, you cannot like sell that these are two different characters.
They did. Because
at one point the character goes back to being to present as female to do a concert as a distraction.
Yeah. They did try it in Battle of the Planets. Because Zoltar,
as you can probably guess, this androgynous lilac-haired pretty person in anime is one of my favourite characters in anything.
No.
So,
no.
It's weird watching the English dub and hearing Leonardo's voice come out. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about this.
Slightly turned on and dirty. that cover it?
I mean that's kind of my default state, so it's hard to gauge.
Yes, had to tell when it's actually a thing. Fair enough. No, in Battle of the Planets, they did try and sell it because they said it was Zoltar's sister. But it wasn't that he was genderqueer. He could actually transition just by thinking it. He willed it and he transitioned. Wouldn't that be an easier world for some people?
God, yeah.
I know lots of people it would be. But anyway, Mysterious Cities of Gold.
Mysterious Cities of Gold. It was originally it was a French-Japanese co-production. Originally ran as Les Mystérieuses Cités d'Or, and Taiyo no Ko... Hang on, I've got this written down. Taiyo no Ko Esutaban, or Esteban, Child of the Sun, named after the main character. Interestingly, although it was a French-Japanese co-production, it first aired in Luxembourg.
Yes,
obviously the French dub did. One of the sort of, it was co-written by a guy called Jean Chalopin, or Chalopin, I'm not quite sure what the pronunciation is. Yeah, who, like, if you liked a cartoon in the 80s,
it was him.
This guy was involved somewhere, like Inspector Gadget, Teddy Ruxpin, Real Ghostbusters, Mask, Heathcliff, Jason the Wheel Warriors.
Yep. Anything that Deke
The guy was into everything.
Well, he's like Shuki Levy and Him Turban. If you like a theme tune from the 80s, it was them. If it was cartoons, if it was live action, it was probably Mike Post.
It was, and again, Chaim Saban and Shuki Levy did the English theme song for Mysterious Cities of Gold.
Yeah, just like they did for Ulysses.
Who Mysterious Cities of Gold shares a cast member with.
Yep.
Adrian Knight, who played the character of Tau on Mysterious Cities of Gold, was the voice of Telemachus on Ulysses 31.
Yep.
But I fear we're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yes.
So it was about this young lad called Esteban, who was from Spain in the 16th century, and he ends up on a ship to the New World with an Inca girl named Zia, who's basically been who has essentially become like a trophy to be paraded around like the crown, to the crowned heads of Europe. And they've each got like part of a special medallion, like a medallion of the sun. And they end up in the New World, and they meet up with this lad named Tao, and he is the sort of last living descendant of the Hiva people. It was in the original one. It was the sort of Mu, MU, which is kind of it's like Atlantis. It's Atlantis. It's that kind of thing. And that they were essentially a precursor people. They were like they had like super advanced technology.
Yeah, kind of like the Neolithic people.
Yeah, like in many cases that we didn't have, that we still don't have. And they end up, they've got this like giant golden ship that's solar powered.
That's so cool.
That they end up floating around on, and then that comes a cropper. But then they get what probably like the most sort of like iconic thing from the show is the golden condor, which is essentially a giant bird-shaped plane that they fly around in the 16th century. And it's all about their quest to find the cities of gold, because they've got Zia has what's called a kipu, which is it's basically a long string with other knotted strings hanging off it. The term kipu means to knot, or it's kind of like the word knot in English. It means a knot, but also two knots. It's a noun and a verb at the same time. Yeah. And it was basically a way that the in like Andean peoples and like the highlands in South America, it was a way. I think we're not too sure, because obviously Europeans went over there and wiped a load of people out, and now we don't know. We don't have the exact information about a lot of things, but it seems to have been like a way of like recording numerical information. And obviously Zia is able to read it, and that's kind of like a main plot point. And so you've got Esteban and Zia and Tao, you've got the kids, and they're just kind of like in it for the adventure. They're like looking for the cities of gold out of the sort of, the love of the search. But then you've also got Mendoza, who's a Spanish sailor, and his kind of like two bumbling sidekicks, kind of like Bulk and Skeleton from Super Ted, called Sancho and Pedro. And they're in it for the gold, and it's going to sound, it'll sound a little trite to some people, but this is one of the first things I ever remember watching on TV, and it's a slightly daft cartoon, but it taught me a very, very important lesson when I was a kid, which is adults do not always tell the truth.
Yeah.
Because the show made it very clear, like, Mendoza, he was primarily in it for the gold. He would screw over the kids if he had to.
Oh, absolutely.
There are times in the show when Mendoza is almost an antagonist, for all that he's like an ally a lot of the time. So it's a really interesting show, and they go sort of on this like big travel across the Andes and the South American highlands. They meet various people. Like they meet up with Zia's people. So like they deal with the Inca Empire, and there's also the Olmecs, who are weirdly kind of almost presented as being like as aliens, possibly. There's something like they've got a kind of like, they all look a little bit like the Dungeon Master from the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon.
Yeah, I was going to say the Mekon as well. Yeah,
they've got like a slight sort of Mekon-y vibe, and they've got a thing which they call the Great Legacy, or the Grand Legacy, which is another one of the ancient sort of Hiva technological artifacts, and it's essentially a nuclear reactor.
Yeah.
So you've got kind of like, it's one of those things like that you get. You certainly with Japanese media, even media for kids, you often do end up with some quite sophisticated ideas in play, and which sailed completely over my head when I was a kid, because I was like 3. I was watching like repeats of it on BBC, like on CBBC when I was 3. So I didn't have a clue.
I remember when it went out the first time. And it was one of those things. It's like you can lump in Dogtani and Willy Fogg, and there's these quest cartoons that seem to go on forever. And then you grow up and you realise, oh, it's anime, so it's going to be about 40 episodes long, because they all are. But you don't know that when you're a kid, so you just think, oh, Ulysses goes on forever, but it ends. That's the weird thing about that and all those type of cartoons, is that they have an ending, whereas most Western cartoons didn't have an ending. They didn't have anything they were working towards.
The most Western cartoons are made for syndication. They're made so they can be played in any order.
Yeah.
At any time. It doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Like, everything sort of the status quo resets at the end of every episode.
Exactly. Or if there are plot points, they're very flimsy. Season 3 of Transformers, that kind of thing. So that, there are plot points that move a story along, but they're never going to be anything that hampers, as you say, syndication. Whereas Cities of Gold, etc., there's no way they can be shown out of order. They have to be shown
it's like if you missed a week of Mysterious Cities of Gold, you'd get a quick recap at the start of the next episode.
Yeah.
Apart from
Andy Crane will give you a quick recap.
Oh, Andy Crane.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, so Mysterious Cities of Gold. It was a really interesting show. One of the most interesting things about it is the inception of it, because certainly not many people that I know are aware that it was based on a book. And me being me, I have a copy of that book.
Oh, of course you do.
The book's called The King's Fifth by a writer called Scott Odell, who wrote many excellent books. The Island of Blue Dolphins, I think, is probably his most famous book. Which again, I think is about a South American girl named Zia. So there's repeated themes. But The King's Fifth, it's very, very different from Mysterious Cities of Gold. There are no golden super machines. There is no golden condor. It's a very kind of straight story. Esteban is aged up because I think he's supposed to be about 11 in the show.
Right. Yeah.
But in this, I think he's meant to be 16, 17, and he's a cartographer. And it starts off that he's in jail because they think he's because the crown, the Spanish crown, basically thinks that he's found a cache of ink and gold. He's found the city of gold,
and he hasn't basically.
Yeah, and he hasn't rendered a fifth share of any treasure recovered to the crown, which is the name of the book, The King's Fifth.
Mm-hmm.
Z is in it as a character, but she's probably the age that she is in the cartoon, but there's I'd say there's probably about 5 to 7 years difference between her and Esteban. You've still got Mendoza, but he's obviously he's a much darker character than he is in the cartoon. So it was so weird to read that it was so weird to read the book because Mysterious Cities of Gold is kind of it's been because it's one of the first things that I remember seeing on TV. It's been in my head for years. So to read this book that it was based on, and that it only shares very, very loose connections to.
Yeah.
It was really weird. It was so odd, but in the best way. This is finding out that basically finding out that this book exists. It was because I liked the Monkey Island games when I was a kid.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I used to go around to there was a time where every Sunday afternoon I'd go around to my friend's house and we'd play Secret of Monkey Island, Monkey Island 2, doing the whole thing where you'd have to swap the discs around like you were operating a switchboard.
Yeah.
And then sort of getting a bit older and finding out that there was a book that Monkey Island was partially based on Stranger Tides by Tim Powers. That was kind of a huge thing. I mean, because it's not very like it, but you can see the influences that it had.
Yeah.
They very, very loosely adapted it into the Pirates of the Caribbean film On Stranger Tides.
Absolutely.
With which it basically shares a title and a Blackbeard. It's a very, very different story than the Pirates of the Caribbean film. But it was kind of like that when I found out about The King's Fifth. It's as soon as I found out about it, I was like, I need... In 1982. The book it was based on was originally published in 1986, and it's not a very well-known book. I don't think it's too insulting to the memory of Scott Odell to say that I think the majority of people who read this book nowadays are doing so because of Mysterious Cities of Gold.
That's not a bad thing. I don't mind that, because if somebody gets into something because of something else that's maybe sort of a gateway or more accessible, it doesn't matter. the fact is, it's where they end up reading the original, you know?
Yeah, it's
So
like,
it's like
you know,
it's-
however you get there is fine, really.
Yeah, the material. If somebody, I don't know, buys the computer game, the brilliant computer game that was of Blade Runner, it was a really good point-and-click adventure, and then they've seen that and they've played that and they think, oh, I'll tell you what, I'll watch Blade Runner because they're based on that. Doesn't matter that they got it to it from that angle as long as they're watching Blade Runner.
I've only once, and it was like a really. I saw it in the picture in the cinema because it was like a special director's cut.
Ooh.
And I went to see it with my friends who'd like they'd seen like the various different cuts that are floating around of Blade Runner, but I'd never seen any Blade Runner. So they were talking about all like the differences and things, and like and the various like different like the differences in the edit, and I was just there like, I guess. I mean, it was all right. Was he a robot? I couldn't tell.
Well, we'll find out in October because the second one comes out. So I'm going to be interested to hear the howls of derision from people who don't agree with it. Because
Blade Runner 2.
But they didn't even Blade Harder. They didn't even agree on the set because I think Ridley Scott says that Deckard isn't a replicant, and Harrison Ford is of the opinion that he definitely was. I don't think it matters. It's one of those things. I don't think it matters. Something that does matter, though, and you'll certainly be interested. You probably know this already. The book is also a slight influence on the Choose Your Own Adventure Time Machine 1987 book, Quest for the Cities of Gold.
That's the thing. I did find that out in the course of preparing for this episode, and I'm pretty sure because obviously I do another podcast called Reuse Your Old Adventures, where me and my friend Rick read game books to each other, and one of us reads the book and the other one makes the choices.
Good podcast, you should listen to it.
I'm pretty... Cheers. I'm pretty sure he's got that one. So I think we might be making a return to Time Machine sooner than either of us anticipated.
Or wanted.
Or really wanted.
Well, it has to be companion piece to this podcast, certainly.
Yeah. But yeah. So the weird thing about Mysterious Cities of Gold is, like, when I was a kid, and not even like when I was a little kid, I'm talking about like when I was like, like 11, 12, 13. I remembered this show and I remembered that I loved it. But like it back then, you kind of couldn't conceive of the idea of like a DVD box set where you could just have one quite small box with a whole like run of a TV show on. Because I remember being in HMV in Liverpool when I was a kid, and they had the complete box set of Agatha Christie's Poirot with David Suchet, and it on video, and it literally took up an entire shelf.
Yeah,
like it was about 4 feet long. This box set, it was shaped like the train, like the Art Deco illustration of a train from the opening credits of Poirot, and it was so huge. Like, and the idea that now you could get the entire Poirot in a relatively quite small box.
Oh yeah,
we couldn't kind of conceive of that. Much less the idea that you could like just watch something on the internet. That you could just there'd be essentially a magic box in your house that you could just go and find like cartoons from when you were a kid.
Absolutely.
Because so for years I genuinely thought I was never going to see Mysterious Cities of Gold again. It was one of those things that it's difficult to conceive of now, because...
Well, it's because whole media is based around binge watching, isn't it?
Well,
at the end of the day,
I promise I'm not doing this on purpose. I'm not like deliberately name dropping the other podcasts that I do. I do another podcast with my other friend Chris,
really
called The Wreckers, where we recommend stuff to each other. And in the last episode, she was telling me about she's got 2 little boys, and I think they're like 2 and 3, or 3 or 2 and 1. This is really bad. I can't remember how old they are.
You're a bad friend.
They're around like 3 and 2-ish. So they're quite small. And like if presented, she was telling me this in the last thing we did. If presented with like a TV, a television, they can't comprehend it because they're used to the one at home, which is like linked up to like the internet and Netflix and like streaming services and all that kind of thing. So they can't like. Cause she was telling me that like they were in like when they drove up to when they moved to where they live now. They're like on the drive up. They were like, what? There was like a TV and it just had like a satellite box with the thing coming in. And they were like saying to her, make the show come on, and she's like, I can't, it's TV. We have to sit through the commercial. We have to wait. And they're like, we'll put this on. It's like, I can't put it on. I can only put on whatever's on TV. And they were like losing their minds. They couldn't conceive of it. And it kind of is a little bit like that now. It feels weird to think that anything could ever be lost apart from Doctor Who from the 60s.
Oh. Well, there's a whole...
sorry.
No, there's whole swathes of programmes that they just wiped because they couldn't afford to keep them. And this is the telling thing. A lot of people think it was just for financial concern that they wiped these Doctor Who episodes. Trust me, there's loads of other shit that they wiped as well. They didn't do it just for financial concerns. They honestly didn't believe anyone would ever want to watch a programme twice. It just didn't occur. Why would we keep these things? Who would want to watch them? Because such a thing as media culture and nerd culture didn't exist. But I understand where you're coming from completely. I mean, I remember that Poirot box set. Yeah, absolutely. I also remember used to get box sets of Buffy and Angel. I used to get 3 videotapes and I'd have like 5 episodes to tape. Friends, that was the big one. The Friends video collection, because my friend had them and we watched them constantly because I like Friends. Go suck a bee. I don't care. So yeah, that bloody thing was immense because you imagine like sort of 9, 10 seasons of Friends. And there were like there were about 9 or 10 videos in a box set of that. It's ridiculous. Plus, the amount of money these things cost. It's like £300 if you wanted the whole thing of Friends. You can probably get it for about 20 quid now, can't you? Plus the fact it's always on Comedy Central. But yeah, I mean, the DVD of Mysterious Cities of Gold took ages to come out. It was something like 2010, 2011 or something.
Yeah, like easily like knocking on for like 30 years since the show aired, and like for like it was like 82 to 83 was the original like run in Japan and France.
Yeah,
and then it must have been like knocking on for almost 30 years later that the DVD came out.
Because we had it in the UK. It was in 86, 87 because I remember quite clearly it being 86, and 89 it got repeated. So we got it really late in the BBC.
I must have watched the original run because I remember watching it in the house that we lived in.
Yeah, you would have been
before we moved, and we moved when I was 5. So I remember watching it because me and my mum used to live on the same road as my auntie, and I remember watching Mysterious Cities of Gold in my auntie Jan's house with the cats.
Funny what you remember, isn't it?
I must have watched the original like 86, 87 run because I would have been about 3-ish. So
that would make sense. So it'd be Phil Schofield then, basically, not Nandy.
Yeah, I remember. I vividly remember the jumper he was wearing when he said the words "Mysterious Cities of Gold." It's like weird, like Proustian memory that you get.
Because he used to make us but they used to get us to sing the theme tune as well on CBBC, if I remember correctly. Philip Schofield, basically, I think you could send away for words to it was either Ulysses or Mysterious Cities of Gold, I can't remember, but one of the two anyway. But such was the lack of anything else to do at that point in time. I think it was we were happier with less, basically, in the 80s. I think is what it was. We didn't have the massive resource of the internet, and I don't miss that at all.
I wouldn't say we were happy with it. I think
we had no choice.
We had no other frame of reference.
Exactly.
We couldn't conceive of something like the internet.
Exactly. A personal computer in every house? No. But there you go. But yeah, other than that, Mysterious Cities of Gold, great show. But then I really like the French Japanese anime sensibility that they have, because the French love anime. They're just so much in love with it. I mean, I've been to the Museum of Comic Book Art in Angoulême in France, and yeah, they're mental for manga and anime and anything like that. So it's no surprise that they did shows like Ulysses, like Mysterious Cities of Gold, these long, massive, epic adventures.
Belle and Sebastian.
Yeah, Belle and Sebastian. I think they should make that sort of thing again. Sort of accessible anime is really what you want to call it. Stuff that people who don't necessarily need to know anything about Japanese culture. I mean, it is out there if you want it. So it's okay. It is out there if you want it. But someone like me, deciding to watch anime would be impossible for me because I've no idea where to start. This sort of thing is like a gateway drug for a lot of kids.
There is similar stuff still around. I started watching several years ago. I bought the box set of the first season of Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yeah,
and I really liked it for a number of reasons. But one of the main reasons that I liked it was that it reminded me of Mysterious Cities of Gold and stuff like Willy Fogg.
Didn't they call it Amaranime or something like that?
It's a cartoon. I don't really get I do remember in the early 2000s because I was on forums and stuff, and the main forum that I spent my time in the early 2000s was a sub forum on I don't know if you ever heard of the website Gaia Online, but it was essentially forums, but you had your avatar was like a little dress up doll and you could get clothes for it and that.
Yeah.
And I spent most of my time in the comics sub forum, which was a sub forum of the anime, manga, and comics main forum, and there were so many threads in the anime forum of people hating on Avatar: The Last Airbender and the Teen Titans cartoon and Puffy Amayumi, stuff like any Western cartoon that took any kind of stylistic or visual influence from Japan.
Yeah.
They hate it. They said, it's fake anime. It's the people making it, both in the West and in Japan, they're not making these distinctions.
No.
Art is a collaborative thing, and not just when you're creating a work of art, but in the wider sense. There are just as many, creators of anime in Japan who are influenced by Western animation.
Mm. Well, Ghibli was influenced a lot by Disney, basically. As far as I'm aware, I've read lots of interviews with those guys who basically said, we looked at what Disney were doing and we wanted to be a bit like them.
Yeah, even going back to Osamu Tezuka, who's one of the people regarded as the progenitors of manga and anime as a concept. He's the guy who did Astro Boy and the Mighty Three and Blackjack and Metropolis and all that kind of stuff. It's he was influenced by the Disney comics of the US troops that were occupying Japan after the war.
Yeah.
And they were influenced by Betty Boop and stuff like that. So there's always been a kind of two-way bloodstream between Western animation and comics and anime and manga, but a lot of the people who were on the fandom side of it, on the consuming side of it, they really didn't like it. And I remember there was a thing where it was I posted a thing of right, here's a panel from Batman, here's a panel from Akira. Just based on these two images, which do you think is the more sort of visually accomplished artist? And most of the people in the anime forum were it's obviously Akira, and they rattled off all the reasons why Akira is good. And I was like, right, fair enough. The only thing is, this panel of Batman that I posted is from Batman Black and White and was drawn by Katsuhiro Otomo, the guy who made Akira. So both of these they're by the same person. It's just you're predisposed to dislike this because it's not Japanese. It's not a Japanese property.
Yeah.
So it was always kind of weird to me because when I was a kid and growing up, and because I was aware of anime before I was aware what anime was. I think we all were to an extent, and stuff like Mysterious Cities of Gold and Ulysses 31, a lot of those they're very similar. So especially Ulysses 31 has a very 70s 80s space opera manga and anime aesthetic to it.
Right, Star Wars, hugely influenced by Star Wars.
Yeah.
And Flash Gordon, even.
Yeah, so the whole sort of thing of it was, to me, there was never a distinction between, this is from Japan and therefore good, and this is not and therefore bad, and never the twain shall meet. And if anyone in the West tries to borrow artistically from anime, then they're pretend and bad. And and obviously we're talking about kids and young teenagers. Who obviously felt very strongly about it, as you tend to when you're that age, about anything that you're into. But it was so weird to me. But and at the time I was remembering things like Mysterious Cities of Gold, which for all intents and purposes is an anime.
Well, yeah, no, it's totally an anime. It's a gateway anime, basically.
But like to think of it as you know, like it's kind of like in two worlds almost. It's like it's a bridge between, you know, like it's a French-Japanese co-production. So at its very like core, it is this kind of like, you know, international collaborative thing.
Absolutely,
so it always struck me as really weird to have, you know, to see conversations where people saying like, oh, all these, you know, guys like the guys who make Avatar, they're stealing from anime. It's like they just, you know, it's like they just like it, and they're borrowing the stuff that they like.
It's an influence, you know,
like yeah.
That's like saying, that's like saying, oh well, Batman the Animated Series fucking can't be any good because it's just ripping off Max Fleischer Superman cartoons. Well, yes, that was always the idea, and you know, it was always the idea with Avatar that it should have that anime sensibility where some of the tropes from anime they were going to use, because it's not boring, it's not scening, it's using the tropes that are there.
Yeah, it's like visual vocabulary almost.
Yeah, it's like the Orville, the Seth MacFarlane not Star Trek series that's coming out. He wanted to do Star Trek. They told him they didn't want him to do Star Trek, so he thought, fine, I'll do Star Trek, but not have it in the Star Trek universe. It's all the tropes of Star Trek that you're going to see, but it's going to be sort of more real world, how people talk, rather than the weird stilted way that people in the Star Trek universe talk.
I've seen Seth MacFarlane's idea of how people talk, so I'm not exactly sold on it.
I can't wait. I think I'm really looking forward to it. But then I'm not a huge Star Trek fan, so you know it could be that I am more open to parody than a lot of Star Trek fans is.
I'm not. It's not that I'm not open to parody, because you know, Galaxy Quest is one of the best Star Trek films ever made.
It's a Star Trek film, yeah.
You know, and was voted as such by Star Trek fans. It's just I'm not so much a fan of like Seth MacFarlane's whole shtick.
No, but what I say is just an example of that sort of thing. Is the fact that you can totally use the tropes of something and not see it. I think just anime fans in general, some of them like to be edgy. It's like the whole sub-dub thing. If you don't like subs, then you're somehow sick and wrong.
Yeah,
and
but
destroy the universe. You know,
you get fans of everything are like that.
Oh yeah.
Like, we're in the Transformers fandom, so like our version of that is like hardcore G1ers, and you know it's not even G1, it's 84, 85, the cartoon and nothing else, and maybe bits of the movie.
Hello, no, I'm not. I have a Jeremy who used to present this show said that everything after the movie is technically G2 as far as he's concerned. So that's basically he didn't like season.
Like G2 was like 1990 something.
Didn't look, season 3 doesn't count there on Earth, and that's how it is. That's as far as he's concerned, nothing after the movie counts. It's all rubbish. And I'm like, dude, that can't possibly be right. And we had many conversations away from the podcast on how you are so wrong, Jeremy. And I'm saying it again, you are so wrong. But it's fine.
Jeremy, I've never met you and I never will, but I will fight you on this.
Oh, we'll meet. I'm sure we'll all meet.
Action Masters are G1.
Yeah, they are.
Fight me, Jeremy.
They're all amazing.
IRL.
They are all amazing. Yeah, so it's like, Transformers fandom. I mean, I can't remember his name now, but the guy who did the comics before James Roberts took over, he basically said, Costa, that's it. You know, the whole interview he did where he basically said that Transformers fans are just the worst, because some of them are the worst. And they're...
Has he met Doctor Who fans?
Excuse me. Although, to be fair...
Hashtag not all Doctor Who fans.
Although, to be fair, I did get kicked off... Gallifrey, whatever it was, the bloody website that I was kicked off years ago.
I thought you meant the fucking planet. I was like,
oh, that's kicked off Gallifrey. Yeah.
Like, have you had like a psychotic break?
Absolutely. No, I disagreed with Ian Levine once and got kicked off. Got banned, insta-banned, because I disagreed with Ian fucking wanker Levine.
What happens if you get kicked off of the Gallifrey forums? Do you like?
It's gone. Outpost Gallifrey's gone. It got that.
Was it lost in the Time War?
No, it was that fucking toxic. Just to bring it screaming back from the parody you were going for. It was that. It got that bad and that toxic. They closed it down. I mean, there's Gallifrey Base, which I haven't been to. I kind of fell out of the whole, not the fandom, but it's like I've got my little cabal of Doctor Who fans that I talk to, like my mate Lee, who I do the Nerva Beacon podcast, and we disagree about loads of things, but. We've got her. I've got Matt Timey, who is a massive Doctor Who fan, possibly one of the few people who are bigger Doctor Who fan than I am. You know, I have those little people. I think forums are basically dead. And I think Facebook and Twitter killed them. And I think that's probably a good thing. Because forums ended up being really nasty places for a long time. There was a space one that got proper nasty in the end. And there was a few people who felt that they knew Simon Pegg and that lot personally. And that because they knew that, you couldn't have an opinion on anything because you didn't know them. It's like, well, that doesn't fucking matter. I'm just a fan of the show. I just like talking about space because it's pretty nerdy. But it went...
It's like, if I could quote you from Roland Barthes' essay on Death of the Author.
Oh, you are so intellectual, are you?
I just watch cleverer people than me on YouTube and pretend.
There you go.
But what I was going to say is, if you get banned from a Doctor Who forum, are you automatically registered for a Faction Paradox?
Yes. Yeah, you're automatically signed up for all the Star Trek forums as well. But then again, I did used to troll those and say I really liked the movies, the new ones, the Kelvin verse, or whatever they're calling it now, which isn't a lie. I do, apart from Beyond, which was, but there you go. Didn't like that. Didn't like that one. It's a bit rubbish. It's a bit shit. It's a bit crappy. Although I did.
Speaking of reboots,
very quickly, I did laugh one line in that, which because Simon Pegg wrote the script. There is a bit where someone's explaining something to somebody, and they say skip to the end, and I thought, yes, Simon Pegg script. There you go. Yes, you were saying.
Speaking of reboots, they did actually bring Mysterious Cities of Gold back.
Yes,
like in 2012.
They did.
Like they carried it on. With kind of like modern animation, where it's a little bit like it's kind of like 3D modeling, but it's cel shaded, so it can look a little bit weird sometimes. And I've got it because obviously I was going to be on board for like more Mysterious Cities of Gold to see where they go with it. Because in this one, they're in Asia. They're looking for there's other cities of gold to find and things and such. It's kind of really weird because watching because obviously it's being made 30 years later, so none of the original cast are still around, or if they are, they sound like they did in the 80s. Like the guy who did the voice of Esteban in the original one, he never acts again. I think he's an engineer now.
Right.
So they obviously they recast, and it was really weird because they kind of, I'm not really sure how to describe it. Esteban and Tao kind of swap voice pitches because Esteban had quite a high voice and Tao had quite a low voice. But in the new one, they've kind of swapped a bit, and it's a little bit weird. Because that was actually a weird thing about because the lad who was doing the voice of Esteban was 9, and the character he was playing was 11 or 12, and that was really weird because it's usually the opposite in voice acting for cartoons and that. It's you've usually got if you've got a 10-year-old kid, it's usually a 35-year-old woman doing the voice, but this was a 9-year-old lad voicing a 12-year-old lad, and he sounded really young as a result. And it watching it again as an adult, it was kind of it took a little bit getting used to. It's yeah, all right, but yeah, I got the DVD because as soon as I knew it was coming back, I was watching trailers for it in French.
Yeah.
Before there was any possibility of it even getting an English dub, I was as soon as I saw the first trailer for it in French, I was digging out my French dictionary, and I was right, I should probably reacquaint myself with French in case I end up having to watch it.
Frantically buying courses on Rosetta Stone.
Yeah, but no, they did an English dub, and it's one of those things. I mean, obviously, I know there's going to be people who like the original because they remember it from when they were a kid, and they're not going to like the new one. And there are certain changes that they've made that I'm not too crazy about. Because here's the thing: when I was a kid. This is even to this day, but especially when I was a kid, there was a type of character in cartoons that I fucking hated.
Right.
I will give you some examples. Snarf.
Oh, right.
Puny. The fucking Slimer from the real Ghostbusters. I hate those characters.
What we call on the
funny. I think a term I've heard used for it is the Scrappy, as in Scrappy Doo. And by the way, Scrappy Doo, there's another one for you. I detested those characters as a kid.
Scrappy actually Hanna-Barbera both admitted that they wish they'd not created Scrappy. We call them on this podcast the RAC, the really annoying character. So the RACs.
The original Mysterious Cities of Gold is interesting because they don't have one of those. They had a parrot who was called Cocoa Petal, who was green and fat, and I loved him, and he was brilliant. And he filled that niche, but for some reason, I didn't find him as egregious as I found the others.
No, it wasn't.
I actually liked him, mostly because he knew when to keep his trap shut.
Yeah, he wasn't used that often.
And did actually useful things. Because I mean, we've all seen the essays and shit that people have written about, the kids from the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon, they were actually dead, and it's hell, and the Dungeon Master's the devil, and Uni is a demon that the devil has saddled them with to stop them ever going home. And you kind of watch the show and you think, that's not an unreasonable reading of the text.
I would have done it.
Uni is fucking terrible.
I would have done it the other way. Kind of like the Ashes to Ashes life on Mars. So he's purgatory. Dungeon Master's trying to get him out of it. So the roller coaster crashed. They ended up in purgatory, and Dungeon Master's trying to shepherd them to heaven
because of all the sins they did as children.
Yeah, children are awful. Children are the worst. They're the most sinful little shits on the planet.
I don't know about that.
They all deserve to go to hell.
I think. That's like a 12-hour discussion with a team of theologians. I think that's beyond the remit of this podcast. But yeah, so I actually quite liked Cocoa Petal, the parrot from the original one. But in the new one, in season 2, which came out like 30 years later, they've kind of retrofitted him to be an RAC.
Yeah,
a little bit in various ways. He talks more.
Right, never a good thing.
Like. I watched the reboot they did of Thundercats, and I had a lot of problems with that. Mostly centered around their treatment of Tigra, who was possibly one of my first crushes ever.
Of course he was.
So the treatment that he got in that show, I wasn't very happy about. But their version of Snarf was infinitely better because it couldn't talk. It was basically a Pokemon.
See, we weren't happy with the fact that he basically isn't an architect anymore, so he can't use his set square. So that's a long running joke on Back to the 80s, that is, because Phil, his favourite character in anything pretty much is, well, other than Captain America, is Tigra. And they make a lot on the show, the original show, that he is an architect. So basically he hits people with a set square and a pair of compasses. So yeah, he's the most boring man in all cartoons, frankly.
Fight me.
He is. I'm not on about his physical prowess, but he's a dull motherfucker.
You're speaking of my husband, sir.
Your future husband.
Yeah. But yeah, so in season 2 of Mysterious Cities of Gold, they've made Cocoa Petal slightly more annoying, which I think, like, it's a step backwards. Yeah, but it's a sign of the times that they like their mascots now in Japan, don't they? Whereas previously it wasn't such a thing, but after, like, post Pikachu, everything's got to be a mascot, basically. I guess, although Pikachu is actually like anything but an annoying character.
Oh, I don't know.
And actually does useful things.
I don't know. I find him pretty annoying. He's no Squirtle. That's where.
Isn't an annoying prick like Snarf.
Snarf's not that annoying. Do you know what?
Snarf is so low.
I will fight you on that one.
Slightly better than Snarf. Then
Snarf's not that bad. He's just a worrywart. He's not annoying. He's not Scott Tracker, for fuck's sake. If you've never seen Mask, if you think Snarf's annoying, watch Mask. Jesus wept, Scott Tracker's a little shit. An entitled little prick as well.
I refuse point blank to say anything about Mask.
How dare you? Well, you're on the wrong fucking you're on the wrong podcast, frankly. you were going to learn, basically. You were going to be made to learn, my friend.
Look, when it comes to the Hasbro universe, if it's not Transformers or Gem and the Holograms, I don't give a shit.
You were gonna have to give a shit at this point because they are gonna make you give a shit. Plus, you need to watch Visionaries. You were gonna like.
Oh yeah, Visionaries. I like those as well.
And G.I. Joe. You'll like G.I. Joe because it's Transformers with people.
No,
it is.
It's Transformers with one of my least favourite things, people.
Oh yeah, but they're not real people; they're tropes.
Actually, well, people. No, like I've tried so many times to get into G.I. Joe, and I just can't. Like Baroness, that's it. I'm quite happy for that to be my one sort of point of contact.
Well,
G.I. Joe is Baroness.
To be fair, you have Marissa Fairbairn. She's G.I. Joe.
No, she's not.
Yes, she is.
She's Transformers now.
Oh, she's G.I. Joe. Her dad is Flint. Her mum is Lady J.
She's pals with Thundercracker. Fuck off. She's Transformers now.
She will always be G.I. Joe. And plus Flint is in, well, kind of. He's in Transformers as well, ish. But yeah, don't worry, we'll get you into it. Especially Visionaries.
Is that a threat? No, like I remember Visionaries. I liked Visionaries.
Visionaries is cool. We'll do that again at some point. But final words on Mysterious Cities of Gold, then. Why should somebody watch it who hasn't watched it yet?
It's just a really good cartoon. It's a really good like ongoing story, and it like that makes it quite different to a lot of the stuff that was created. Certainly, like in the 90s, there were very few like ongoing stories that I remember.
Yeah,
there was like, there was like stuff like Conan the Adventurer and Pirates of Dark Water. They ostensibly were part of an ongoing narrative, but they had the kind of like format of the week thing that you really didn't get with Mysterious Cities of Gold. Like all the episodes did follow on from one to the other. And the other thing that made Mysterious Cities of Gold really good is that it takes the best possible approach to edutainment, where it's like the separation of church and state. They have the separation of edu-antainment. It's like you get your cartoon, and then they would always have a very, very brief live-action bit at the end where they would talk about something from, like, the history of Native America and what what's called the pre-Columbian civilizations, and like what life is like now. So they talk about so 1 week they'd be talking about the Inca, and then they'd talk about like the Andean. The next week it'd be like the Andean condor. And then it'd be like the diamond trade, or you'd get and it'd like always be something that was related to the episode.
Yeah.
And that's what I like, and I really like that because like I liked knowing stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So it's a really good cartoon, and you get like a tiny little snippet of documentary at the end that's really good, and it's pitched to children but manages to do it without being patronising.
Because that's a fine line.
Yeah, that's like a tightrope act. But that's the thing. I mean, I can't possibly be objective about Mysterious Cities of Gold, because for many years it was almost like the Holy Grail for me. It was this thing which, like, I thought would be unattainable for the rest of my life, and now I've got it on DVD and I can watch it whenever I want, which I do frequently. There's several TV shows that I will watch continuously. They are Mysterious Cities of Gold, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, and Elementary.
Yeah.
I tend to watch those in rotating loops, just because I enjoy experiencing them. And at this stage I must be on my 7th or 8th watch through of Mysterious Cities of Gold that's coming up, and it hasn't got old, and I honestly don't think it ever will, because it's just too committed to being what it is.
Yeah.
And what it is fantastic.
Excellent. Well, I like it as well. I must admit I'm more of a Ulysses fan, but then I always like the Greek myths and legend. That was more my jam than the Inca stuff. Although the Inca stuff, I'm going to have to rewatch it. I'm going to have to find somewhere to rewatch it and watch it again, because I must admit, as I got older, I am really interested in sort of the Aztecs and the Incas and all that kind of Central and Southern American civilization that we just don't know that much about, because the Spanish and the English basically went over there and just killed them all for no fucking reason other than to make money. Capitalism works. But yeah.
Well, I wouldn't say that it works. It works for some people.
I was being sarcastic. Heavily sarcastic. It didn't work for the Incas particularly. But there you go. Stop human sacrifice. You must worship money instead. Oh, you're dead. Oh, well, never mind.
I don't know if the Inca did human sacrifice. No, the Aztecs did.
The Aztecs certainly did. That's their whole thing was based.
The Maya did, but they sort of died out before. Their sort of civilization collapsed before Europeans arrived.
Yeah, well, the Greeks did for a long time.
I'm thinking of the right.
It was the only reason we don't is because of the Romans, because the Romans hated it. That's why they hated the Druids so much, because they did human sacrifice. But the Romans really had a thing against all the horrible, horrific, brutal things that the Romans did. Human sacrifice wasn't one of them.
That's the thing, though. We kind of don't know if the Celts did human sacrifice.
The Druids did. The Celts didn't. I don't think the Celts did, but the Druids definitely did.
The Druids were Celtic, weren't they?
No.
I mean, Celt is a very broad thing.
Yeah,
it stretches from like Scotland to Turkey.
Yeah, it's a massively thing.
You read like the only real source that we have on the Gauls and you know like the what was called Transalpine Gaul by the Romans, like so stuff like you know like the Britons and the Gauls. It's like the only real source we have for those is Caesar. Well, as well as that is Caesar's Gallic Wars. And it's like I'm not prepared to treat Julius Caesar as an unbiased third party when it comes to recording military campaigns that he conducted.
Exactly.
So
he had the tendency to try and make himself look good. You see.
Yeah.
I don't know if you noticed.
I'd have to find out did they though?
I think they used blood sacrifice. I'm not sure whether they killed people. They definitely used blood sacrifice, but it wasn't a regular thing. It really wasn't. It was something that they did very, very occasionally. But he needed an excuse to hate them, didn't he? So that was it.
It's what they call a casus belli. I mean, one of the main reasons that the Romans hated the Celts is that the Celts treated women like people.
Oh, they can't be having that. They're sex objects, clearly, and birthing ovens.
A woman is supposed to be the property of her dad until she gets married, and then she's the property of her husband. But like Celtic women were off being like warriors and chieftains and stuff.
Yeah,
and you know and priests and what have you. So that really wound the Romans up.
Well, yeah.
I remember them. There was an episode. Terry Jones did a series of documentaries called Bob. He did a documentary series called Barbarians.
He
where
did.
He basically looked at like the Vandals and the Goths, like on all these people that we tend to think of poorly because the Romans didn't like them.
Yeah.
And he sort of examined them and said, "Thing is, the Romans were kind of dicks." So
well, yeah, the Romans were.
One chances where they couldn't have been all that bad.
The Romans were massive dicks. They were horrible people, but they were civilized. He says in inverted commas. But there you go. We shall examine that another time, I'm sure. But yes, Mysterious Cities of Gold. Go watch it. It's very good. I'm sure you can find it online. I'm not going to give you any examples of that. But yeah, go find it online. If you want the DVD box set, it's still available for places. And I don't think it's hugely expensive anymore.
Next places, I think it'd probably run you about 20 quid.
Yeah. I would imagine so.
Which is worth it.
Oh,
the show it is.
Absolutely. And the sequel show is out as well, so you should definitely try and pick that up.
And I think they're possibly making a third one.
Oh, excellent. The way it's the French, so yes, probably they do love it. So,
I think they're going from China to Japan.
Oh, cool.
Which is weird because if they've come from South America, they're going backwards.
Well, maybe that's what they want to do. Don't tell them what to do, shitlord.
I mean, they've got a plane; they can do what they want.
Yeah. Don't assume their direction, shitlord. I said that to somebody the other day. Did you assume my gender? And they didn't know what to do with it. That was hilarious.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, the thing that I find most offensive about the term shitlord being applied to me is the idea that I could be a member of the aristocracy.
Well, you are. How do you know that you're not? We all must be somehow. We're all part of a glorious whole, Matty.
I think you're talking a lot of glorious whole at the moment.
Excellent stuff. Where can one find you on the wide world of the interwebs there?
As I've shoehorned into this one, I do another couple of podcasts.
No!
I do a podcast called Reuse Your Old Adventures with my friend Rick, where we read game books to each other and make terrible choices and end up shouting at each other and authors who are probably now dead.
And we will try and get Rick on at some point, just to let you guys know.
Yeah, we'll drag him on for. I've got an idea of something to do in the future. We can drag him on for. And I also do a podcast with my friend Christy called The Wreckers, where we will we recommend stuff to each other. In the last case, I recommended a webcomic to Christy called Starfighter, and she recommended to me an anime called From the New World. Then we went away and we watched and read it, and then we went back and talked about what we thought. And the episode where we talk about our experience with it is going up soon. and we'll be recording another one soon where we do a recommendation. You can find these if you go to soundcloud.com/Rick and Matty. That's RIK and MATTY. You can also find us. You can find me on Twitter at Matty Franklin with a Y and Matty with a Y, and also at Rick and Matty, which is the podcasty account that I have.
I would say that Matty's Twitter not safe for work. It's just so much gay anime stuff.
I don't know. It depends what your job is.
Well, if you're someone who works for gay anime, then otherwise, there's so much gay anime on there. Where's your down?
If you work at Clamp, it's probably fine.
If you're cisgender like me, straight cisgender, oh my god, I'm joking. It's fun to wind Matty up sometimes. No, honestly,
I don't really. I've been sent here to perform your SJW re-education.
Exactly. No, you're not good. I'm 40 years old. Sorry, you've had it. It's just.
You don't know. I might have pros in that.
I'm as socialist and accepting as anybody. It's just I don't understand it. That's the thing. It's not that I'm against anything that anybody is. I don't care. I'm 40 years old. I'm just too old to.
Be quiet then, Grandad. Drink your tea.
Never going to happen. Where's me pudding? As he said on bread.
Oh dear.
Exactly. We've got to talk about bread at some point. We totally have, because we've got a proper Scouser on the show now. So, have we? You sound like you are. You're from that area.
That's just linguistic Stockholm syndrome. That's just because I've been here for so long.
Is it the Wirral?
Yeah.
Oh, the posh bit.
No, we're on the side that isn't considered part of Cheshire.
Yeah.
So we're within the cultural orbit of Liverpool.
Nan
used to hate it when people when people said we were from Liverpool.
That was watching Malcolm's mother.
Yeah.
Scouser. I'm not a Scouser. I am from the Wirral. I think Lily Savage said that as well at some point. It's like he made a big thing that she, whatever, was from the Wirral. Paul O'Grady's
Paul O'Grady's he's from Birkenhead, as far as I know.
Birkenhead. Jimmy Hawhill. They need to do Brookie as well. I like Brookside. Hate bread. Bread is awful.
I've never seen it. I've never seen any soap opera.
You've never seen Brookie? Oh, dude, Brookie's brilliant. Brookie was great. I used to like Brookside a lot. It was real. It was actually proper real. You could believe half the shit went on in that close. Plus it had Ricky Tomlinson and Sue Johnson on it, so how can you not love it? Bread, however, drizzling shits. The drizzling shits. And Carla Lane, she hated Liverpool, did Carla Lane. Because she must have done, because Bread, just the most unfair programme. If it had been made about anywhere else, there would have been outcry of the way she portrayed people. I mean, we're not going to talk about it because we could be here for all night on this one. But we will talk about this possibly in the next few weeks, I think, because we haven't. I've wanted to do Bread. I want to do a section called Sitcom or Shitcom. Well, you look at a sitcom from the 80s and decide, is it classic gold? It's like, for me, Terry and June will always be great, but I can understand why people wouldn't like it. But it's something where we should totally do on a sort of semi-regular basis, but we'll get to that. If you want to find me, or old Tinterwebs, you can find me at Glenn Jakeman on Facebook. If you want to be on Facebook. On Twitter, it's at Cymru Nerd Cave. So it's at Cymru, as in Wales, and then Nerd Cave, as in a nerd cave. If you want to find Back to the 80s on there, it's at BTTE Pod. If you want to find Nerva Beacon on there, it's at Nerva Beacon Podcast. Facebook, you can find Back to the 80s /BTTE Pod. You can find Rick and Matty on SoundCloud, as I said, /Rick and Matty on SoundCloud.com. You want to find us on the forum, it's backtothe80s.freeforums.net. And if you want to find us on the blog, it's backtotheatiespodcast.blogspot.co.uk. They really need to find a better way of doing that, but there you go. We shall leave you this week with the full 4-minute 32 version of Mysterious Cities of Gold, themed by the mighty Heinz Saban and Shuki Levy. Which is long and it's great, and then we'll leave you with a public information film. It's going to be Clunk Click, but it ain't Jimmy Savile, don't worry about it. Good luck finding a lot of those, but I did find one that wasn't, but it's a Clunk Click. Back in the days, because this is pre-1982, when it wasn't a legal requirement to wear a seatbelt. If you can imagine such a thing. It seems so weird. I remember that. I remember that coming in. I remember my granddad before 1982 never using a seatbelt. Hated using a seatbelt.
Now, in the days of the loony nanny state, trying to stop people diving headfirst through windscreens.
Yes, exactly. Those bastards. But there you go. Matty, thanks for being on as always.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, as always.
Well, like I say,
for like the third time now.
It's partly your podcast, so there we go. We shall be back next week. Not sure what with yet. I've got a few things in the pipeline. I might come back, but it is my turn to spotlight. So we shall be back with something from me. Other than that, have a great weekend and a great week next week. Say bye-bye, Matty.
In Carla Lane's defence, Rick's from Liverpool, and now he lives in Canada, so take that however you will.
Yeah, but he has nothing but nice things to say about Liverpool on your podcast. Bye-bye for now, people.
Bye.
Everybody clunks. But not enough people click. And no matter how good they are at handling their cars, or how well they know the road, everybody's equally likely to get involved in an accident. And without a seatbelt, you're twice as likely to be killed or seriously injured. So don't just be a clunker. Clunk, click.
That was a public information film.